I feel that justice wasn't done. It's just as simple as that. Justice was not done.
What happened in this neighborhood's happening all over the Salt Lake Valley. Police catching criminals, but the jail won't take them. Officers in a number of departments have been telling KSL a jail policy has made things so bad that the public needs to know what's going on.
Tonight, an investigation that began last summer. Here's Deputy Janovic.
Salt Lake City Police, come outside with your hands up.
It's like a scene out of a TV crime drama.
Come out now with your hands in the air.
But it really did happen in the avenues.
Salt Lake Police, if you're in here, call out now.
Police say squatters broke into a vacant home.
Salt Lake Police, if you're in here, call out now. Police, anyone in here, call out now.
Which house is it?
It's this house.
Kim Stockdale, who lives next door, says this is usually a pretty quiet neighborhood.
There was a lockbox on the front door.
The home's owner lived out of state.
So this for sale sign was where? It was right here?
Was right here.
Kim thought maybe he'd rented it.
Saw a young woman ride up the bike at 171 and go in.
She was worried.
No lights on in the house.
Like a good neighbor, she took notes.
More moving in after dark again.
So about a week goes by, the real estate agent stops in, takes one look around, and calls police.
And when the police came, they were barricaded in a back room.
Keep your hands up. Walk backwards towards my voice. Go down to your knees.
Police handcuffed several people that day, and naturally, neighbors thought.
I'm thinking they need to go to jail.
I hope you understand that this isn't what I'm doing.
But they're not going to jail.
I can only do what the jail will allow me to do.
The offense wasn't a felony, and in Salt Lake County, if it's not a felony like murder, kidnapping, rape, dealing drugs, officers are not allowed to take suspects to jail.
Grab your stuff.
This neighborhood was essentially victimized by crime, and nobody went to jail.
Nope, nobody went to jail.
Police departments aren't happy about it either, but it's not up to them. The Salt Lake County Sheriff runs the jail, and last March he issued this order to help manage the inmate population. Police officers all over the valley tell me it's wreaking havoc on the streets.
It's been ridiculous.
Sergeant Scott Morcus.
It's created real problems for us. We need to be able to book people into jail again for the crimes they commit. I mean, it's just such a basic idea of our criminal justice system.
Before, police were able to use their judgment on which suspects should go to jail. The basic premise is this: communities are safer with bad guys behind bars, even temporarily, while criminal charges are pursued. But the new plan bars police from jailing almost all suspects who commit misdemeanor offenses.
People can assault a police officer.
Yep.
They can get caught shooting up heroin.
Yep.
They can break into a car and steal stuff.
Yep.
And they don't go to jail.
Correct. So he's got a Class A warrant for assaulting a police officer, and we can't take him to jail.
All right, here you go.
Now let's say someone assaults you while you're walking down the street.
And we would not be able to take him to jail for it.
Alpha 716.
So this guy was just shooting up heroin.
Use drugs? No jail. And
You could go break into that car down there, steal something, and I could watch you do it and catch you, and I'd get the stuff back, but you wouldn't be going to jail. A vehicle burglary is a Class A misdemeanor.
I've never heard of such a thing.
I wanted to speak with the Salt Lake County Sheriff to ask if he has plans to change the policy. He declined to be interviewed for my report. For now, cops can only issue tickets and then have to release suspects on the spot. And many don't bother to appear in court, so
So he's got 15 warrants right now.
misdemeanor warrants for their arrest pile up. But police can't, you guessed it, take them to jail.
Like, we literally have people walking around down here with 25 plus misdemeanor warrants out for their arrest. They get to walk away every single time.
No jail.
No jail.
You can't lock the front door of the jail.
Since fall, Chief Mike Brown has been tracking how the policy is affecting safety in Salt Lake City.
It was impacting the citizens. It was impacting the way we want to serve our communities.
Now his officers document if an offender should go to jail, but can't go to jail. This month's data showed 40% of the suspects Salt Lake City police caught could not be booked into jail.
We're just leaving in the neighborhoods.
And the data shows it's making neighborhoods more dangerous. For example, when police weren't allowed to take a suspect to jail for theft and drugs, he later returned to the establishment and beat up 2 employees. A new analysis by Salt Lake Police says the jail's plan gives the appearance of lawlessness. And crime data shows an increase in theft, assaults, forgeries, intoxication, and drug abuse.
There needs to be justice. You do the crime, you pay the time.
Kim Stockdale says it makes her feel unsafe. You see, not long after police had to let those squatters go, they returned. And thankfully, they couldn't break into that same home again.
Salt Lake Police, if you're in here, call out now.
It means to me that somebody can get away with whatever they want to. And I don't like that.
To be clear, there are some misdemeanors like domestic violence, DUI, child abuse that are still booked into the Salt Lake County Jail. But you may be wondering if all the beds at both jail facilities in Salt Lake County are being used up. The jail told me there are hundreds of empty beds, but there's no funding to put inmates in them. Now, 20 years ago, the main jail was built with the premise it could be expanded. That has not happened. Police officers say it is time to find real solutions because we can no longer afford to keep the jail doors locked to so many misdemeanor offenders every day.
Yeah, to 40% of them.
A lot,
There's
a huge number.
No deterrent that way.
Something needs to change, they say.
All right, thanks, Debbie.
You're watching KSL 5 News.
A KSL investigation we brought you last night at 10 exposed concerns from the community and police about criminals not facing consequences in Salt Lake County. With few exceptions, officers say the jail won't accept people arrested for misdemeanor offenses, including assault, theft, or trespassing. Today, Sheriff Jim Winder responded to our investigation. Here's KSL investigator Debbie Dujanovic with what he had to say.
One of the things officers were certainly hopeful for is more in the immediate future that the jail restrictions would somehow be altered or changed so they could bring more misdemeanor offenders here to the Salt Lake County Jail. It does not sound like that's going to be happening anytime soon. You know, officers are frustrated because oftentimes now with misdemeanor offenses, the Salt Lake County Jail will not accept them in many cases, and therefore they must release the offender right back onto the streets, sometimes issue them a citation, and then they're allowed to go right back onto the streets and into the neighborhoods. So one of the things the sheriff talked about for a long-term solution was perhaps some sort of a tax increase in order to fund the reopening of the Oxbow jail.
Recently, as I think all of you are aware, we have approached the Salt Lake County Council and we have requested funding to build between 300 and 1,000 new jail beds at significant expense to the residents of Salt Lake County. I have stated publicly that I am supportive and have been supportive of additional revenues, specifically tax increases, to fund jail beds.
The sheriff also talked about a plan to add several hundred more jail beds down the road through what he called a community correction center. We're certainly going to keep an eye on that. And we're going to also keep an eye on how the booking restrictions continue to affect not only residents, but also police officers who say they are very concerned that the crime will continue to increase, particularly in the Salt Lake City area, if these booking restrictions stay the way they are today. Back to you.
If they run and try to hide at the Jordan River, we're going to the Jordan River. If they're going to South Salt Lake, we're going to South Salt Lake. West Valley, we're going there.
2 years, dozens of officers, Operation Rio Grande underway, and already the plan to get rid of crime and restore public safety around the downtown homeless shelter is getting people off the streets.
There has been a tremendous amount of intelligence that has been gathered over the past few days and weeks and months and literally years in some cases to identify the worst of the worst.
The first phase of Operation Rio Grande goes after the drug trade. Phase 2 calls for treatment options for drug addiction and mental illness. And then the last step is job training and finding work for those experiencing homelessness. The ambitious plan continues this evening with more arrests being made. News specialist Lad Egan there this morning as police started the operation. He's live with us tonight with what's happened so far today. Lad?
Yeah, we have witnessed arrests all day long, but this is not some sort of a large crackdown. It is more precise. Right now it's very calm, and that's what we've seen, but then 2 or 3 police cars will show up and make an arrest. And that's what we're told the future is, at least for the next 2 years, sustained law enforcement activity.
With a public safety helicopter hovering overhead.
You can see that there's a lot of police action going on down here at the Rio Grande area.
and more than 80 officers from multiple agencies on the ground. The morning sweep near the downtown homeless shelter is the result of weeks of secret planning.
So our hope is that people will choose treatment so we can get them off the streets permanently.
Unlike previous crackdowns in this area,
Have you had it checked by medical or anything?
Oh, yeah. Lawmakers like Representative Paul Ray say this time they have more jail and treatment space.
We're just not going to show up, do it for a couple of days and go home. Salt Lake City and county are committed to carrying this out and making sure that they keep this area safe for the public down here.
Not every police encounter resulted in an arrest. This man was free to leave after a search of his backpack.
Just a lot of drug dealing, a lot of drug using.
Those who work in the neighborhood watched what's being called Operation Rio Grande, hoping it stops the non-stop drug activity.
It's pretty sad to watch every single day.
I am not a criminal. I am a recovering drug addict. I don't do drugs anymore, and I'm really getting tired of being treated like I do.
But this homeless woman says those in charge don't always get it right when it comes to separating the bad guys from the victims.
And the only ones who are being really affected by this are those of us who don't do anything wrong, and it's not fair.
And that is the challenge here as the law enforcement looks to get rid of the criminal element, but then help those who are truly experiencing homelessness. I did just get an update from the Department of Public Safety. I'm told that about 24 people have been arrested so far. But Dave, they are waiting on an update from the jail. So certainly that number will rise as the night finishes on day one, phase one of Operation Rio Grande.
Such a big challenge down there, Lad Egan in downtown Salt Lake. Thank you, Lad.
City, county, and state leaders are touting major progress after the first 2 months of Operation Rio Grande.
They also admit there's still a long ways to go. News specialist Mike Anderson spoke with business owners in the area, and Mike, some remain worried the crime is just being pushed somewhere else.
Yeah, Dave, you know, one business owner from close to here says
Pierre Van Dam enjoys sharing the food of his home country.
Making frites? Yeah. I can eat them every day, no matter what.
Even more so now that the crowds outside are noticeably smaller.
My clientele is not as harassed anymore as in the past. It used to be a daily event.
And the difference can be seen on the streets. Talking with the media today, agencies working to implement Operation Rio Grande noted what they consider some large improvements in the last 2 months, with more than 1,600 arrests, more than 800 of those drug arrests, 76 new beds available, and a new drug court where 400 have already been screened.
We are now taking a social worker and an officer and going out into the field.
But with some of the population moving elsewhere, House Speaker Greg Hughes says there needs to be an effort to adjust.
I think every single community needs to fight for their community and make as well known as possible the things that they are seeing and make sure that we know.
Governor Spencer Cox says to expect more beds around the valley, a safe space, a courtyard for people needing services and programs aimed at getting more people back in the workforce. Mike Anderson, live at 5.
Mike, thank you. The Rio Grande neighborhood. So, Lad, connect the dots for us here.
Yeah, Ashley, you can see the command center here behind me. That raid today took place at a house about 2 miles west of here. Police say it wouldn't have happened at all if it weren't for the information gained from Operation Rio Grande. Started about 4 weeks ago. Today we got some new numbers from the Department of Public Safety. Take a look at the number of arrests. This morning the total was 1,023 arrests. I'm told very few of those have been repeated arrests. 676 people have already been released from jail because of overcrowding or other reasons. Police say of those arrests, the information gained combined with confidential informants led to today's raid.
Basically a safe harbor for criminals is what this place was, right off of a main thoroughfare.
And this is involving not only drug trafficking at the highest level, but human trafficking at the worst level. And we're talking even minors that have been impacted or hurt by these very people.
Operation Rio Grande has also led to other search warrants being served at 2 motels and 1 other home, resulting in a half dozen more arrests. Today, we're learning that a team of social workers and attorneys are at the jail giving assessments and determining who is eligible for addiction therapy. That is in preparation for the specialty drug court to open its doors for the first time next week. The county also announcing that it's found 37 new residential treatment beds to help those with addiction recovery. That is an essential essential part of Phase 2. For Live at 5, Ladd Egan.
Ladd, thank you.
Well, a lot has changed in the Rio Grande neighborhood these days. We drive through there every night. Large-scale urban camping, open-air drug deals, drug use. A lot of it's been cleaned up.
But where has everybody gone? News specialist Andrew Adams takes an in-depth look at that question tonight, live from 5th West. Andrew?
Dave, let's face it, we wouldn't have dared to be live out here at 10 o'clock 6 months ago. It just would have been too dangerous. But the massive police presence here has changed this place dramatically. And as a result, a few other places are a little bit different as well. Just beyond the bright lights of Liberty Park,
some of them are really good,
are the shadows.
A lot of the people having fun in the park don't realize what's sitting just a couple of feet away from them.
They're forgotten people, occupying forgotten spaces.
Just living out here day to day.
Richard Ruckert has lived in this void for most of the past decade.
We have to walk everywhere.
Public restroom at the park.
His nightly walk through the park is a perpetual reminder.
They're not very big.
Of the indignities served upon the homeless.
They pull all their stuff into the bathroom. They'll lay down next to their cart. Some of them even have animals. This right here is why he can't go to the shelters.
They're indignities that seem to be mounting lately, along with the fears.
Just in the past week, we've had gunshots fired 3 times.
Many of the problems that scared people like Ruckert away from downtown have now showed up on their doorstep since Operation Rio Grande.
But now all of the crime, the drugs, the prostitution, the lawlessness that they were so against down on Rio Grande is now up here.
It's not the only area to experience new traffic.
What's supposed to be a bird refuge is basically a campground.
The banks of the Jordan River had already swelled with transients, leaving scenes like these behind.
This keeps going. There's several series of camps.
For those who are now regularly tasked with cleaning up.
I felt like I was walking forever through the camp here, and yet this isn't even the biggest.
There's definitely been an increase in population, and I think it's become more noticeable.
The difference is even more noticeable on the streets of South Salt Lake.
And it took him less than an hour to return to the camp that I just evicted him from.
Officer Cody Coggle has now been assigned to deal with homeless issues in the city. It's more or less an around-the-clock job.
Hi again. Didn't I talk to you over on Iron Gate Avenue about 3 weeks ago?
Police say homeless contacts in South Salt Lake.
I would assume you probably know you probably shouldn't be back here because...
Nearly quadrupled in August and September, from an average of 60 per month to 230. Investigators say more than half of those interactions resulted in arrests.
What you don't see is there's actually a bunch of electronics. There's a big screen, probably 60-inch TV behind that tent. I don't know if you noticed that. And there's a whole bunch of bikes back here. You can only assume where they're coming Here's from. The problem we have, though.
Assumptions are easy to make. Like the idea that transients would never settle within walking distance of the Utah State Capitol. Or that the Provo River would never look like the Jordan.
It's well fortified.
Assumptions can often be wrong.
Stacked sleeping bags.
An entire motorcycle unit now regularly patrols the woods surrounding the river after car break-ins this summer led the Utah County Sheriff's Office to investigate Provo Canyon. They uncovered numerous transient camps.
30 through this whole benched area.
Investigators say they believe the numbers here have grown since Operation Rio Grande, cropping up in some spots no one would have ever guessed.
Watch your head.
Ron Mitchell discovered this cave within a mile of Provo's priciest residences.
Bags, backpacks.
Somebody, perhaps multiple people, had been staying here. A man-made crevice surrounding a pipe. Deputies also uncovered mood lighting and company.
It's a good spot for these guys to come and basically live.
But do the signs of transient life cropping up in new and unexpected places really explain where those who occupied the Rio Grande neighborhood have gone?
Really hard to put numbers on it.
Of the more than 1,700 arrests of Operation Rio Grande, just 15% remain behind bars, so they're not in jail.
Where they went, we suppose that they went back home.
Police theorize a large percentage of the street dwellers weren't really homeless at all.
I think we disrupted a lot of people that were down there for just all the wrong reasons.
Homeless advocates say the demand for their services has never gone away.
But when Operation Rio Grande was implemented, our numbers really didn't go down.
As a new dawn rises,
Guys, how did you sleep?
The forgotten of this park
We slept okay.
hope Operation Rio Grande will mean a brighter future.
I think given time, it will work.
For now, they're hungry.
So the more you eat, the less I have to carry.
Hungry for their own say on the issues that now confront them away from downtown.
Talk to the homeless. Get our ideas. Nobody can represent us better than us.
Well, it's important to point out that police in many communities, West Valley, Davis County, Ogden, have seen little to no change at all. The Utah Department of Public Safety says it expected some of these problems to arise, and they're working with local communities to address and fix some of these problems. For now, they say if anybody witnesses criminal or suspicious activity, please call it in. Back to you.
Andrew Adams live for us tonight in Salt Lake City. Thank you, Andrew.